Hello, hello! I'm Taren S, and this is the House of Witchcraft. I hope you find inspiration, encouragement, and empowerment in all of my videos. And with that said, let's brew some magic, witch! Hello, hello, Crossroads Witches and other interesting magical beings. I hope this video finds all of you well and in a place of leaning in and looking forward. We are getting ready for the dark half of the year. Ooh, the season of the dead. We're actually already in the dark half of the year, but once we start getting closer to that September equinox, I just start feeling it more. So, today we're continuing the series on Ask Taren. This is another question that was sent to me asking me about witch bottles and sour jars. And I don't quite think the person understood that they're not really interchangeable. So I wanted to have a quick discussion talking about witch bottles, sour jars, and honey pots, or honey jars as they're referred to. We are going to start with a witch bottle. Witch bottles, we actually come from the British Isles. That's where the oldest of them are. They are actual bottles, all right, glass bottles that we found. I think the earliest we found is in the, 13th century. They just recently found a whole series of them from the 18th century, 1700s. We've also found witch bottles in colonial America, dating into the early 1800s. So, the very British Isle thing. It is about keeping witches away. That's what a witch bottle does. All right, that's what it was understanding now at the time is that there was a place for what we would call a good witch. All right, cunning folk, all right, our midwives, our herbal healers were all deemed good magic. Anybody that practiced witchcraft was deemed bad magic, evil spirits, horrible things. For the time period, that is how they denoted it, all right? So the big thing, and this was with the mundane, was the concern that these evil entities of do no good would come onto their property. So they would create witch bottles, like I said, and typically what goes into a witch bottle is all sorts of foul things. Most of the time we find broken nails, skeletons of small animals, fur tidbits. There has been urine found in a couple of them. Again, it seems to be regional as to if you what this witch put on this in her jar on this side of the mountain, or not witch, but mundane folk, because they wanted to keep the witches away. Now, in modern contemporary times, witch bottles have translated into bottles of protection that anyone can use. I'm a witch. I do make witch bottles to keep evil entities, influences, spirits, and anything else that does not bid me well on my property. All right? You typically create the bottle, put in your items in it, completely seal it, and then you bury it on property. There is some variance as to where it's buried. Some folks will tell you it needs to be buried where people walk. Other folks tell you it needs to be buried up in a corner of the property line. All right. My personal is actually sort of in the center of my property, is where the one that I buried here is in the center of the property. Bent nails, shards of glass, some urine. I also put in, I think I wrote down several verses of Psalm 91 and put in my bottle as well. I just really, anything that I thought like protection and to repel was where my headspace was. So, witch bottles, all right? Very common in contemporary witchcraft. They're quite popular, all right? They are to keep evil spirits out. Originally, they were to keep the bad witches away. That's why they're called a witch bottle. Now we're going to talk about mason jars, honey jars, sour jars, and things like that. All right, we are going to shift gears and we are going to come back here into America and to the Southeast. Honey jars, sour jars are a very African. When African folks were brought over here to be enslaved, they brought their magic with them. All right, and one of their forms of magic was putting things in small pots. Initially, we would see this. We can trace it. We know where it's from. Where you're looking at Congo, you're looking at Benin, you're looking at the Dahomey nations, of the use of small clay pots that they created, and then they put either good stuff in it, making it a honey pot, or they put foul stuff in it, making it a sour jar, and then a little lid, clay lid was put on top, and then wax was used to seal it, and then it was buried. Sounds sort of familiar. So, how did that translate? When the black folk got here, they used what they had. One of the things they had access to was old jars that had been thrown away. Mason jars that no longer could seal. Old pickle jars, any type of a jar, actually. And that is why they used the mason jars, because they were available. Then, of course, the sour jar is this is for souring up any type of a situation or any person. Hence the name, sour jar. Typically it's made, it's sealed with wax, sound familiar, and then it's buried. All right. Honey jars are still called honey pots, and which are in reference back to where they originated from, are the same thing, where you would use honey as your base ingredient. It is about attracting things to you or sweetening up a situation, softening something or softening someone. Again, very creative with how that goes. And if you are using a sour jar, the typical base for that is either vinegar or urine, or a combination of both, all right, is what we find. They are all beautiful forms of magic that in folk magic we see them all because of that crossroads, a funky gumbo, but being aware of where they come from is part of the magic. Being able to cite your sources, to say their names aloud, to understand where this magic came from, how it came to us. And now when I'm using it, all right, I'm giving honor to that whole story, okay? And that is so very important. So I hope this answers your question on witch bottles, sour jars, and honey pots. I'd like to say, please leave your questions below. You can also email me what I'm using which, or you can contact me House of Witchcraft, or you can contact me on social media platforms. People DM me, whatever works for you. If I don't get it one way, please don't be afraid to try to contact me another way. I'm still learning social media platforms, and I did not know about the inbox and Instagram. Okay, just saying. I'm working at witches. All right. Thank y'all so much for your support. Go out there, fly those brooms. As always, have a bright, blessed day. And amen, blessed be, ashe, and a-bo-bo.